Hello, and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Wednesday, June 12th. Hopefully everybody is having a good day so far. It was day number 2, the final day of New York Jets mandatory minicamp as the team now breaks for the summer, a 40-day break. And then they will be back at One Jets Drive late in July to begin training camp. And then the NFL season will be about a month away after that. So a lot to be excited about, a lot of positives to take away from the last couple months here for the New York Jets, specifically over the last couple weeks with OTAs, now mandatory minicamp, and now the team heads into summer break, getting ready for training camp later on next month. This is episode 315 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. We've got a lot to discuss, breaking down all angles of day number 2, the final day of Jets mandatory minicamp. It was a very news-filled 2 days of Jets mandatory minicamp. Primarily, one of the news, the main headline has been completely unnecessary, and that is Aaron Rodgers' absence. The other headline, of course, is Hassan Reddick, which I think deserves more of a headline than Aaron Rodgers, but the way the national media is, they're going to make this Rodgers situation something it isn't, because that's what they do. Rodgers is a polarizing figure. Anytime his name pops up in some way, shape, or form, there's going to be multiple national media talking heads that are going to take it and run with it, and it is what it is. So we'll break it all down. Before we begin, got to tell you about a sponsor here of the podcast, Huga House. 15% off code Bubbs. Proud, very excited to partner with them here on the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. If you go down in the description down below, whether you are listening to this podcast on any of the audio podcast platforms or watching here on YouTube, go down in the description down below, click that link. You will then be taken to the Huga House store, and you can shop from a wide range of hats and t-shirts and everything they offer over there at Huga House. Really excited to sponsor with them. And at checkout, you can get 15% off any purchase with code BUBS for 15% off. So definitely head on over there. You can help support the channel, get yourself some swag, some of the swag that Huga House provides, some of the hats, the various hats that they sell. Aaron Rodgers wears a lot of them, as you could see here for the YouTube audience, the 2 photos we throw up here on screen. So again, go down, link in the description down below, click on the link, and at checkout, when you purchase an item, use code BUBS for 15% off any purchase. Help support the channel, get yourself some swag, and of course, help support Huga House as well. Really excited to partner with them here on the podcast. So check that link out down below. Code BUBS, 15% off any purchase at Huga House. Now let's get into everything that went down for the New York Jets today at day number 2 of mandatory minicamp. And obviously yesterday was a very, very crazy day in Jetland. It shouldn't have been, but it was, because the national media took Aaron Rodgers missing 2 days in June and completely ran with it and took it completely out of context and really took it and basically made a story that shouldn't have even been a story, shouldn't have even been a headline. They made it one of the talk of sports. They made it the biggest talking point over the last 28 hours for no reason, when he's been here for the entire offseason programs, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 with OTAs over the last 3 weeks. So it's completely ridiculous, but it's Aaron Rodgers. It's as to be expected. If he goes to ShopRite, if he goes to buy produce, and somebody caught him at ShopRite, they would wonder if he's committed. They would wonder if he's committed to the Jets or whatever. They would make something out of it. Whatever this guy does, they find a way to spin it in a negative way. So that happened yesterday. Today, it was more down to business and more about the actual practice. Now, Robert Saleh spoke for the second consecutive day, and he had some more to say on Aaron Rodgers, which I want to open up here because I do want to close on some Rodgers stuff. I also want to play a clip here that DJ Reed had to say on Aaron Rodgers to basically put a close to this situation and how ridiculous it is, how much NFL fans and the NFL media have reacted to this Rodgers situation. So here was Robert Saleh on more thoughts about Rodgers after a follow-up question was asked to him today about his absence over the last 2 days.
Robert, you said that you were aware that Aaron was not going to be here before yesterday, is that correct?
Yeah.
And Tyrod said he had only found out that morning. Is there any reason that wasn't communicated to him before? Or?
No, it's a one-on-one conversation. It's not something that the team needed to know about.
I think you're getting some blowback from media people about the use of the word unexcused, and because you were okay with him not being here, but you used the word unexcused. So I'm wondering maybe if you could clarify why you used that word. And also, did you tell did Aaron know he was going to be termed unexcused, and how he reacted to that?
No, you're fine. Talked about it yesterday, but Aaron and I are on the exact same page. There's no issue between Aaron or his teammates, for that matter. So, like I said, we addressed it yesterday. It's more of an issue for everyone outside the building than it is inside, and that's about it.
That last piece there by Saleh hits the nail on the head. It's more of an issue for the people outside the building than it is inside the building. And he's 100% correct. The New York Jets, Robert Saleh, the players, the locker room, this does not affect them at all. Yesterday was June 11th. Today's June 12th. As we've said, he was there on Monday getting a physical and participating in media day. This isn't like Aaron Rodgers was last seen 4 snaps into the season where he tore his Achilles. It's not like Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles and then recovered all on his own and then completely sat out of all the spring workouts and then was just going to show up for training camp and expect to be on the same page with everybody else. That wasn't the case. And a lot of people forget that Rodgers came back early last year to be with his team, to recover and to rehab at the Jets facility and even participate in scout team. Most guys that are on the IR, they go back home, which nothing wrong with that. That's what most guys do, and they rehab on their own. Rodgers wanted to be with the team. He wanted to be in the locker room. He wanted to be a veteran presence. He wanted to try and get back out onto the field if the Jets were in contention. We all know what happened. So this notion, again, that he's a bad teammate, and that's what I want to play here to put this thing to close before we get into some other important stuff that Saleh had to say. He mentioned how the teammates aren't affected. Here was DJ Reed on Aaron Rodgers' absence, completely unfazed, and the locker room clearly does not have an issue with it.
Absences, there's a small one, your quarterback not being here, created a little bit of a stir. What's the vibe in the locker room? Are guys talking about that he's not here, or what's your feeling about it?
Honestly, bro, no. Like, AR has been here majority of the OTAs. He's been here before I was here. I think he was here the first day, phase 1, phase 2, and he's been here for the majority of practices that weren't mandatory. So, I think I seen something that Coach said that Saleh said that AR had something important that he had to attend, and, that's our quarterback. If it's important to him, it's important to us. It's really not a big deal.
Also, 100% correct. You also noticed that Rich Cimini was the one that asked these 2 questions. Not much of a surprise there. Is trying to stir the pot on a situation that does not need to be extended or does not need to be talked about any more than it's already been. But, yeah, DJ Reed there, cornerback, leader in the locker room, not fazed by his quarterback not being there. And he mentioned Rodgers actually was there before DJ Reed was. That's not a knock on DJ Reed, but DJ Reed said it. He was there before Abe has been. He's been there longer this spring than DJ Reed actually has been. This has been a guy that's been in the building day 1 of off-season workouts. Misses 2 practices in June, and the world is ending. And if you saw some of what people were saying today, Colin Cowherd saying that he's got sources, he knows what Rodgers doing, and then he says this is what happens when you have a coach with a losing record and a new general manager. Newsflash, Colin Cowherd. Joe Douglas is not a new general manager. He was hired in 2018. He's entering his 6th season. A general manager entering his 6th season, last I checked, is not, or 5th season rather, is not considered new. So that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong, but not necessarily considered new there. Saleh obviously entering his 4th season. Been with the team 2021, 2022, 2023. Douglas, of course, been with the team 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. And now, of course, entering 2024. So please, too, with the Joe Douglas nonsense that he said, new general manager. What? Now we're saying that the New York Jets have a new general manager? Really? A guy that's entering his 6th season is a new GM? I don't know. Above, I guess that's what the requirements now. You're general manager for 6 years and you're new. So that was more on the Rodgers stuff. Now moving on to more of the important stuff here from practice today. Robert Saleh also spoke on Olu Fashanu and where he will primarily play, what his role is going to be, and how he is coming along, because he is coming along well. Him and Tyron Smith have a good relationship. Smith dropping a lot of knowledge on Olu Fashanu, which has been really, really good to see. Here was Saleh on Fashanu and where he will get his majority of reps come training camp later on in July.
Can you give us a progress report on Olu and just in terms of how he's come along? Obviously, offensive lineman without pads is not ideal for evaluating, but just maybe some areas of strength, some areas he needs to work on.
Great mover. Everything that we saw from a draft from the evaluation standpoint in the draft is true to form. Great young man. He's soaking it up. We've in our team meeting today, he was highlighted with regard to this, because you can't have the physicality, but you can see with regard to intent and technique and all that stuff, and things that he was trying to do in week 1 compared to what it looks like now after seeing his Tyron do it, and the experience he has in that room, and he's deliberate in the way he approaches the game, and he's always going to have things he has to work on. But I'm really looking forward to him getting out there in training camp with pads on to see it all come to fruition.
Will he work exclusively at left tackle in training camp?
As of now, that's the plan.
So the last part's one of the most important parts of that, is exclusively working at left tackle. And I think that's the smart thing. You want to work him there. You want to make sure that he's growing there. When he's young, you don't want to have happen kind of what has happened in the past with this Jet team with left tackles and right tackles, almost the way things happen with Becton, where you're moving them around all the time. Same thing with AVT, where you're moving him around all the time. You don't want Fashanu, fresh into the league, having him learn 2 positions at once, already trying to grasp all these different NFL concepts, trying to learn the offense, trying to grow and develop. Because as much as we hope that the Jets are healthy all year, Olu Fashanu is going to play probably multiple games this year. Tyron Smith probably, let's say, gives you 13 games maybe this season. Olu Fashanu will play those 4 games he's out. So he's going to play, I believe. He's going to start more than 1, more than 2 games this year. Ideally, he doesn't really play at all, because that means Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, all these pieces are all healthy, and they play all 17 games, and the Jets are healthy and things are great. But the way history tells us, that's not going to be the case. So you want him working there at left tackle. You want him there at the primary position. You want him there ready to roll by the regular season if something does happen to Tyron Smith, who hasn't played a full season since 2015. And if he does go down for, let's say, 3-4 games, let's say goes down for a month, you can trust that Fashanu can step in and really be that dominant force that they selected as the 11th overall pick. And so far, the early returns for Olu Fashanu have been really, really positive. It was also a very good day for him going up against Michael Clemens. He had a really good practice, and I think he's really hungry for knowledge. Tyron Smith talked about him a little bit as well. He spoke to the media yesterday. He's been dropping a lot of knowledge on Fashanu. Fashanu's really come into the perfect situation. Not only does he have Tyron Smith, but he's also got a guy in Morgan Moses that's been in the league as well, while obviously playing right tackle, a guy that has seen a lot, knows what he's doing, a pro's pro. So a lot of really good pieces on this offensive line that Fashanu can look up to and learn from. Lazard also, Saleh talked a little bit about how it's coming with a little bit of a new mindset. Looks good. I know Jets fans, some of you not going to want to hear that. Some of you are probably sitting home right now watching this video or listening to it on an audio podcast platform, and you're probably thinking to yourself, I don't want to hear about Allen Lazard coming in with a new mindset and looking good in OTAs and minicamp. I don't want to hear it, but again, he has had a pretty good minicamp. It seems like he's been a little bit better. It seems like he's more focused. We haven't seen any soccer balls. I always say this with Allen Lazard, right? You just hope that with Aaron Rodgers, this could be hopefully a bounce back year. Obviously, it's clear he lost focus last year. It's clear he kind of gave up and quit on the team. And I'm not making an excuse for him, but it was an awful quarterback play. With better quarterback play, with a guy that has gotten something out of him in the past, Aaron Rodgers has gotten a lot out of Allen Lazard in the past. With a guy that's been able to do that in past years, you got to trust that Aaron Rodgers can get a lot more out of Lazard than what Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian were able to get out of him last year. It's the only hope. Saleh also said Will McDonald has gotten stronger. Not necessarily mass weight-wise, but he feels he's gotten stronger. But he does say that these next 40 days are huge for him if he wants to come in and play a big role. So that was mainly what Saleh had to say. Now, just some injury stuff and attendance. Moses and Tyron Smith did not practice today. Tyron Smith, who practiced yesterday, didn't practice today. That's going to be a common theme probably every other day. Very limited, keeping his wheels fresh, keeping his legs fresh, making sure that he's 100% healthy going into the regular season. Mike Williams spoke to the media today. He says he feels he'll be ready to go for regular season. Doesn't really know much about training camp, how much he'll be able to do, but the common, I guess, prediction amongst the fan base, even Saleh has mentioned it throughout the last couple weeks and ever since they signed him, that he will follow along what Breece Hall did last year coming off a torn ACL, where he'll be limited during training camp. He'll probably ramp up a little bit later on in camp, but for a good portion of camp, you're not going to see him at all in preseason. It's going to be very limited. He'll probably be off to the side field, off doing stuff on his own the majority of the time, and then they'll slowly work him back into actual team drills, 7-on-7, stuff like that. So don't expect a lot out of Mike Williams training camp-wise, but as long as he's ready to go for week one, and obviously what they were able to do last year with Breece Hall worked, because in his first game back, he had that 82-yard run and looked like he didn't miss a beat. So that's the ideal situation with Mike Williams, is he goes out there and puts up a big couple weeks of the season and looks like he's healthy and ready to go. Izzy also didn't practice today. Injury not completely confirmed, but from what many beat reporters said, it seems like it's a shoulder. So hopefully nothing major, and he'll be ready to compete in that running back room once training camp rolls around. All right, now on to practice itself. Tyrod Taylor had a much better day today than he did yesterday. Yesterday was a lot of incompletions, kind of not much chemistry. Rodgers has been the number one, working with the ones. Tyrod steps in, works with the ones, didn't do a whole lot yesterday. Today was a better day, more productive. He had a whole lot of completions to a whole lot of different guys. Garrett Wilson, Xavier Gibson, Kenny Boa, Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert, Allen Lazard. Lazard had a touchdown today. Garrett Wilson had a amazing grab this afternoon. Tyler Conklin also with a one-handed snag. So there was a lot of highlights. There was a lot of big plays. Many are calling Garrett Wilson's catch this afternoon the play of the spring. So that's obviously good to see. Garrett Wilson, it feels like every single day is doing something special, no matter who the quarterback is out there, no matter whether they're in shorts or pads, because we saw him make a whole lot of great catches last year in the regular season and in training camp. So Garrett Wilson's ready to roll. If it was week one, I think if you were a betting person, you would hammer the over in yards with Garrett Wilson. He's been awesome, and it's been great to see him obviously pick up right where he left off with Rodgers so far, and even here in the 2 days with Lazard still making plays. Tyrod had no incompletions during 7-on-7 drills. Yesterday went 6-7. Today, no incompletion, so it was much better. Not flashy, of course. A lot of short stuff, a lot of quick passes, taking what the defense is giving him. Not a guy that's going to take risks downfield. That's just what he does. That's who he is. He's a backup quarterback. That's his job. Don't make the big mistake. Keep your team in it. Give your defense, let your defense do the job. Do enough on offense to get the job done. If Tyrod would have to come in for 2 games, you can trust that you could go 500 over those 2 games, and they would probably get it done with Tyrod going, 19 of 23, maybe 190 yards, a touchdown, a pick, doing enough, not making the crucial mistake, and getting the job done. And that's kind of been the story here over the last 2 days for Tyrod. A lot of short stuff. Other practice notes, not Tyrod Taylor, not quarterback related. Todd Downing. This was a big story. And I'll pull up the tweet here for those of you watching on YouTube. Todd Downing was calling plays in the 2-minute drill. So Connor Hughes tweeted out earlier today, reported that Todd Downing, not Nathaniel Hackett, calling plays during the 2-minute drill. He then came back with a little bit more of confirmation on that. And as you could see here, Connor Hughes said, I dug on this. Downing was calling plays. That was by design. Saleh chose to mix it up, play callers on both sides of the ball during the unscripted portions of practice. He wanted to give the coordinators and coaches different perspectives from what they normally do. Saleh previously said that come regular season, Hackett will be primary play caller. So this isn't a massive headline. It's not like, oh my God, Todd Downing calling plays. Is this something that might happen in the regular season? No. Hackett's still the play caller. I'm not going to sit here and be a conspiracy theorist. I wonder if maybe it's because Rodgers wasn't there and they wanted to kind of mess around a little bit. If Rodgers was there, they probably wouldn't have done it. It probably would have 100% been Hackett. But since Rodgers wasn't there, Saleh kind of wanted to tinker a little bit, gives Downing a chance during the 2-minute drill. Nothing crazy. It's minicamp. I wouldn't read into this too much. But, look, I think it is something to obviously keep an eye on because Nathaniel Hackett's been so bad. And if something would to go south this year with the offense where Hackett's clearly having a negative impact, then maybe they would transition to Downing. But I think this is just a Wednesday, June practice where Saleh wanted to change things up a little bit, give some guys some different looks, tinker a little bit, and this is all going to mean nothing once the regular season comes around, which is probably what will be the case. All the tight ends continue to look good. We talked about Conker, we talked about Rucker, we talked about Yeboah yesterday, how they're going to manage that, and it's going to be really interesting. So another strong day for those guys. Zach Kuntz did have a drop across the middle that should have been caught. So that wasn't great, but the Jets, if they want to run 12 personnel in passing situations, you could probably throw Yeboah out there because he seems to be maybe the better pass catcher route runner right now than Rucker. But in running situation, you could throw Rucker out there. So the Jets are legitimately 3 tight ends deep going into the season, going into training camp, which is a very big positive. Very good day for Braylon Allen. Had a couple of nice long runs. So that was good to see. Great offseason workouts for him. From rookie minicamp to OTAs to these last 2 days, he's been excellent. I know they're only in shorts, but he is a rookie. He's caught on to the offense, seems pretty quickly. And I think everything we expected, a power running back and a guy that's been able to really catch out of the backfield. I think that's been one of the surprises. Him and Rodgers have had some really good chemistry that's been built over the last couple weeks with him coming out of the backfield. So Braylon Allen going into training camp really seems to be the surefire number 2. Bearing something crazy, he's your number 2 running back behind Breece Hall, who, of course, will lead the way. Isaiah Davis as well. Good day for him. I think you look at the running back depth chart right now. It's Breece, Allen, Davis, and then your 4th is a battle between Tariq Cohen and Israel Abinaconda, which will be pretty interesting battle because Cohen's got a little bit maybe of the advantage because he's got the kick returning, punt returning ability, which is something that the New York Jets continue to also tinker with. It feels like every week they're bringing in somebody else that can return kicks. Tariq Cohen also had a touchdown today, by the way, on what would be a touchdown. Of course, it wasn't a touchdown today, but it would have been if the play continued in a real game scenario. So running backs impressing. Carter Warren got some reps today, according to many. Footwork looked good. He looked good out there. He was in for Tyron Smith. Morgan Moses, of course. Sherwood made some plays. Quantez Stiggers had a pick 6, so that was really good. He also won a couple battles against Alan Lazard. So Quantez Stiggers is really making a really strong case for that cornerback 4 spot. You know, you look at the 3 corners right now, it's Michael Carter, it's Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed. But that 4th corner is between, Eccles, Stiggers. You also have Tay Hayes. Jarek Bernard Converse, we know, can do a little bit of both. Isaiah Oliver, of course, made the transition to safety. He was originally corner. So Stiggers, I would say right now, Eccles, of course, has been with the team, but the way Stiggers has played and this coaching staff, this team, the locker room loves him. I don't think it's crazy to say Stiggers' chances of making this 53-man roster as a 4th cornerback, he might be the favorite right now. Maybe it's too early to crown him the favorite. If this continues in training camp, once pads come on, joint practices, preseason games, and it's like, yeah, this guy really has caught up to the speed of the NFL game, then you maybe can jump the gun and say he should have that spot. But out of all the corners, you can make the case he's been one of the best. And definitely the best for guys that are competing for that last spot. It's great to see. It's a cool story. It's another thing for a cool story to really produce, and he's been able to do that. Another guy that looked really good is undrafted free agent Eric Watts, who is one of the names that I mentioned in the video of all the UDFA signings. There was a couple guys that talked about to look out for. Leonard Taylor, Brady McGregor, both guys have done well. And then Eric Watts as well was another name to keep an eye out for. 6'6", 274 pounds. This was a guy that was projected to go from anywhere from round 5 to round 6. He completely fell out, was a UDFA. Very athletic. He ran a 4.67 40-yard dash in his career at UConn, had 151 total tackles, 9.5 sacks, 23 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles. So a guy that's very athletic, got some speed. And for those final D-line spots is making a little bit of a name for himself. Because that 4th edge is kind of up for grabs. You have Reddick, you've got Jermaine Johnson, you've got Will McDonald. Those are your 3, but that 4th edge, potentially if Michael Clemens doesn't do enough to solidify his spot, that right edge opens the door for a Brady McGregor, opens the door for an Eric Watts, one of those 2 UDFAs to potentially make this roster. So that's a name that Jets fans need to keep an eye on when we enter training camp. I think he could be one of this year's training camp darlings. And we'll go into that. We'll go into a full training camp preview once it gets closer. But every year you get that training camp darling. Last year it was kind of a duo. It was Xavier Gipson and Jason Brownlee. And Tanzel Smart. Tanzel Smart's always a training camp darling. But you always get that guy that flies under the radar, whether it's a UDFA, whether it's like a 6th-round draft pick. This year's training camp darling could be Quantez Stiggers just because of the story. But in terms of a UDFA training camp darling like Brownlee and Gibson last year, I think this year could be Eric Watts. He could be your this year's Brownlee and Gibson, where he comes in, UDFA, does a great job defensively, outplays Clemens. Clemens doesn't make the team, and Watts is your 4th edge. Keep an eye out. That's all I'm saying. Not saying it's going to happen, but it's definitely something to watch for. So that'll do it. Episode 315 in the books. Once again, before we close things out, make sure to head on over to Huga House. Link in the description down below. Use promo code BUBS for 15% off any purchase. Get yourself some swag. Support the channel. Support Huga House. And if you want to look like Aaron Rodgers, then get yourself some Huga House gear, as he wears it very often. Promo code BUBS, 15% off any purchase. Link in the description down below. Appreciate the support, as always. So that'll do it. We enter the dead period, the last dead period of the NFL calendar year before training camp. And once training camp starts, we'll pretty much have daily uploads during training camp. I recap every single training camp practice. We'll also have a lot of guests on from now until training camp to kind of fill the void here, because 40 days is a lot. There's usually not a whole lot of news. It's a very dead time. So I've got some different videos, different episodes that I want to pump out to you guys. Going to get some guests on as well. So stay tuned. We'll have a lot of content coming your way. As always, make sure to please like and subscribe here on YouTube, reaching a goal of 1,000 by week 1. Couple months to do it. I believe we can. I think we're at 336 right now. So we got some work to do, but I think we can do it. So definitely smash that subscribe button, hit the like button as well. And until next time, appreciate all you listening on all the different audio podcast platforms, watching here on YouTube. Stay tuned. A lot more content coming your way. Until then, Jets, Jets, Jets.